Welcome to the Confluence cast presented by Columbus Underground. We are a weekly Columbus-centric podcast focusing on the civics, lifestyle, entertainment, and people of our city. I'm your host, Tim Fulton. This week, marathons are more than just races. They're complex productions, community rituals, and, at times, catalysts for civic pride. In this week's episode, I sat down with Darris Blackford, longtime race director of the nationwide Children's Hospital Columbus Marathon and Half Marathon. We discussed how the event evolved from a tourism initiative in 1980 to one of the country's most respected independent races, and how Darris went from running it as an amateur to running it as a professional. We explored the behind-the-scenes logistics of staging a 15,000-person race through multiple municipalities, what makes Columbus's marathon structurally and financially unique, and how technology has reshaped the race experience without replacing the purity of putting one foot in front of the other. Darris also shared insights on elite runners, nonprofit partnerships, and why fireworks beat flyovers every time. You can get more information on what we discussed today in the show notes for this episode at theconfluencecast.com. Enjoy the interview. Sitting down here with Darris Blackford, the race director of Nationwide Children's Hospital Columbus Marathon and Half Marathon. Darris, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for the extended title. They're like, it is the longest title of any race, I think, around.
We have to name things properly, but I will probably just refer to it as the marathon or the Columbus Marathon. How long have you been the race director?
This is my 16th year.
Okay.
It'll be my 15th race, but plus one because of COVID, even though I was still there.
Fair.
We didn't have the race.
Okay.
So I took over in 2010. In the spring of 2010, there had been a different business that had been in charge of it.
Okay.
And some issues came up, and so the board. I had been working for the event, doing marketing and helping them with marketing for several years.
Okay.
And my history goes back to the 90s with the race, which I'm happy to talk about. But I was asked to take over, and at the time I was working here at the. I was doing marketing for the local Harley dealers. There was three of them at the time, but I was running. I'd been a runner all for many years, and I thought, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do both. It was those first 3 months. Not a lot had been done for the event, and I'm still trying. In the motorcycle world, kind of like the running world, people are getting outdoors. It's springtime.
Yeah. Okay.
It just got too busy, so I went to the owner of the Harley dealers, and I just said, "Hey, I'm sorry, but this opportunity came up. I'm really passionate about this," which he knew.
Yeah.
And so I just went to the marathon full time that summer, and it was haven't looked back.
Okay. And the Columbus Marathon is could I refer to it as semi-unique in that it's independently run. Like there isn't a national company that sort of runs a couple of different marathons around the country. Like I think Indy is that way, right?
Well, the way Columbus, it's a nonprofit.
Okay.
And it was started back in 1980. It was started as a way to bring people to the city. These had been done in other places.
Okay.
But back in the late 70s, cities were seeing these were kind of popping up, and
right.
So city leaders were like, "Hey, this is a way we can bring people to our city."
Yeah,
and it did really well, and it was popular during the big running boom back then. But the difference is being a nonprofit versus there's some for-profit companies that run other events, including Cap City, which is a great event. We're good friends with them, but that's a different
structure.
Different structure.
Right.
So there's a board of directors.
Okay.
And then there's no employees. Everybody, including myself, are contractors. But basically, I mean, this is all I do. So it's kind of all that means is I pay my own taxes. I pay my own benefits.
Right. Well, and I actually, this will show you how nerdy I am, is I looked up the 990 for the Columbus Marathon, and I was like, I don't see Darris on here. And so, but that's one way to do it, right? It's like you just have a renewing contract with them, with
Correct.
the board.
And that's how it's been ever since the very beginning, when there was previous people that were in charge of it. There was different businesses or entities. Then there's a team of people that are involved in putting the event together, but most of them are only either from the summer on or summer only, like a few weeks out, and then during the race.
Okay.
Just depends on what area they're specializing. Like we have someone who's in charge of, we call her the environmental manager, but she's in charge of trash.
Okay.
We have someone who's in charge of our elite athletes and our wheelchair athletes.
Okay.
So really, they're not busy right now ordering things or working with the city on permits. Their job really is race weekend to make sure that everybody's where they need to be, and so on and so forth.
And so then do you, and this is me getting further nerdy, like do those folks contract with the board directly?
No, they cut them with me. So
they contract through you. So you have an entity.
Basically, I have to deal with all that, and then they get $9.90?
1099.
Yeah. I know it's proper. But so it makes it easier for the board because again, it wouldn't be, it's not set up where they have, there's a treasurer and things like that, and there's an accountant, but it's not like they want to be in the business of employing and employee relations and health benefits and all that. And it's really interesting in this space, and that includes people like Cap City and other events. There are some sort of people that just specialize in working on these events.
Okay.
As a 1099 person.
Yeah.
It's just that's like kind of their sort of sidelight.
And I've done I think of it very similarly to, I used to book speakers for a conference. And so it's like, I know what my busy time is, and like there is a board, an entity, but I have basically a separate contract I am there to get speakers on stage.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So we're in June right now, or at the time of recording, we're about to be in June. Where do things stand in terms of logistics and planning for the event in October?
So the way I have done this, and I've really developed this pattern over the years, is I really just have, starting from the end of the last year, just working my list of things. And there's certain things I do throughout the year. So in June, we're basically getting ready to order our medals for the race, working on our T-shirt, working on our designs and things like that. We work with the local retailer, Columbus Running Company. They handle our relationship with ASICS as far as getting the shirts and things like that. But then we're going to work with local designers to what's the look going to be.
Right.
A lot of it is starting to prepare our permits for not only Columbus, but Bexley, Upper Arlington, Grandview Heights, Ohio State. We have to work with all those, the police departments plus the cities themselves. So there's a lot of that paperwork. Insurance, all the things I have to work with on everything from certificates of insurance and additional insureds. And then a lot of it is the vendors that we're going to be working with, whether it's the people who provide the restrooms or the fencing, as well as our food orders we start to plan and things like that. A lot of the pieces from the participant side started in January when we opened up registration.
Okay.
They sign up and they're done.
Right.
Except they have to prepare themselves.
They have to train.
Correct.
Right.
So what we start to see is some people are training all the time. It's just part of their lifestyle. But people that are really getting committed, they'll start in June. And there's a lot of local running clubs and training programs that really will kick off for our event in June with about an 18-week, 20-week period that they're focusing on. But a lot of people also, maybe they are already running and they did the Cap City.
Okay.
And they just kind of roll that training. Maybe they take a little bit of time off at the end of April and just kind of roll that into their summer of preparation, and then they're ready for the fall.
And so do folks that registration is open, is it full yet? Or
no, but it's full had been a miss. Full is a moving target.
Okay.
Full used to be about 18,000 people.
Okay.
Used to be 18 to 19, and it was too many.
Okay.
And it was great. But when we figured out that according to the Venturi effect, and I'm going to throw some science now.
I am not familiar. Okay.
However wide the start line is, can only be as wide as the most narrow street in the first early miles. In other words, if we had an 80-foot wide start line and we got to Bexley and the first street they turn onto is 40 feet, people are going to end up on the sidewalks and in yards and things
and that's
like
a problem.
It's a problem. It's some kind of weird science vortex.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because people, I mean, I've ridden in Pelotonia, and like, I don't know if I can certainly imagine in that environment, it's like you can't flex that way.
Yeah.
But runners don't adjust for that?
Well, but if there's just so many. So,
Okay,
the point I'm trying to make is when we were at 18,000, we were able to control what happened on those streets, but it was too crowded.
Okay.
It just puts a strain on the early water stops, the volunteers, things like that. Just so many people.
Okay.
So by being in that 15 to 16,000 sweet spot, it's just allows us to keep the quality high, provide what everybody's going to need,
Okay.
and also serve particularly Bexley and Near East Side and German Village without just overrunning things and causing issues where people are going to get injured or things like that. So we were in that 18, 17,000. Then there was a little bit of a dip in the late teens, 17, 18, 19. We had our 40th anniversary, so we had a bump that year. But then COVID hit. So we went to zero.
Right.
So coming back from COVID in 2021, we were about half of where we had been, maybe the 6,000, 7,000 spot. And then we bumped up again. And then we reached a point last year where we were in that 13 to 14,000. And it's getting close to a really sweet spot. We can go a little bit bigger.
Okay.
But the last 3 years, we have sold out each year. We had to close registration earlier and earlier.
Okay.
So we won't make it to the end of August for the marathon and half marathon before we have to close it.
Got it. So those that are listening that are considering it, now is the time
Yeah.
to go ahead and register.
Yeah.
And you guys have some elite runners that participate. Is there outreach you have to do to get them? Is it just because I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if you get a certain time in the Columbus Marathon, it allows you to qualify for like the Boston Marathon. Is the New York Marathon one that you would need to qualify?
It has one you can qualify for automatic entry or to better your chances of getting in.
Okay.
But Boston has the time, is the only one that if you make the time and there's certain parameters and
Got it.
Clearly they run your credit card and everything. They're happy to do that.
Fair.
But we've got a really good reputation. It's I mean, again, that 44-year tradition, it was always known as one of the not one of the first races, because there's some that are over 50 years old, but one of the long-standing races, and had a tradition for being a good race with a good elite field. So we don't really have to recruit too much. They also know where they're going after the money, and they know the people whose job it is to go out and be runners. They kind of know, we're going to go to Columbus. The big money's at races like New York and Chicago.
Is there a purse for winning the marathon? Okay.
Yeah. So first place wins $4,000, which is a great amount, but it's more of a second tier. You're going to New York or Chicago, your appearance fees would probably equal that.
Interesting.
As a good, but again, they're also, 10 minutes faster than our winners. So it's, but we're a good middle-sized race, good big city race, but yet and offer all the benefits. But yeah, from the prize money, it really has never been something that Columbus wanted to be that one that was offering $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 prize money. It just doesn't fit into our model.
Okay, got it. But should I think of our race as we're very flat, right?
We don't use it as much. I mean, back in the day, the slogan was "Our world is flat." Playing off Columbus, which I really liked that.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to be so pushing that, because places like Chicago, which are pancake flat compared to what we have when you're coming out of, in particular, when you go run up through Ohio State campus up to Upper Arlington. I mean, there's some climb to it that people complain, this isn't flat like they said. Well, that's why we stopped saying our world is flat.
Got it. And how do you sort of approach do you view yourself as sort of the representative of, obviously you're here doing a podcast interview, but are you also the public face of the marathon?
Good or bad, yes.
Okay.
I have a face for radio or a face for podcast. I feel it was my first marathon as a runner.
Oh, okay.
Back in 1991. And I'd moved to Columbus that year. I've run the race 15 times.
Okay.
And now this will be my 15th race, 16 years, not counting COVID or counting COVID. And so, yeah, I feel that right now, no one's more knowledgeable about this event than I am of anybody who's on this planet, because I really make it my cause to know it and care about it and to nurture it for whoever comes after me. And I think the people before me felt the same way. But yeah, I feel strongly that what it means to the community, and not just the community at large, which really has changed in the last few years, but from the running community. It was always a respected event. In 1992, we hosted the Olympic trials for men, which was kind of a unique situation. And so kind of carrying that flag of what this event represents and is in the running world, I feel it's important to represent it in a good way.
And do you handle sponsorships and stuff?
What's great about our event is, knock on wood, we can pay the bills with the registration funds.
Okay.
So when people sign up, those dollars are used to buy the shirts and buy the medals and buy the food and insurance and pay the six-figure police costs that it costs to put this thing on and so forth. But we get a little bit of money for a few things, but not much in the way of sponsorship.
Okay.
We get some in-kind, which is great. Like Gatorade. I mean, the value of Gatorade's sponsorship is six-figure.
Oh, wow.
Not six-figure. Five-figure. What?
It's a lot of Gatorade.
It's probably, I don't know what the dollar amount is, but yeah, it's five-figure for sure, because it's Gatorade, it's cups, it's all the jugs, all the signage. It's really the branding and the brand recognition of being partnered with them. If we had to buy that would mean our costs would increase, or we'd have to find other sponsors. But that's where the model works so well with what we have, because we're able to really run it as a business, that we're not trying to put money away for shareholders.
Right.
We do try to put money away into a rainy day account, because we had a rainy day. We had COVID. And we had to give everybody their money back. But yet we still had expenses that year.
Yeah.
Some things had already been purchased. And so the bottom line was, having a little bit of a bank account is great.
Yeah.
Because to protect yourself. But what's great is, by partnering with the hospital, they're really good at twisting
arms.
And I always say that as a joke. They're always good at getting people to open their wallets.
Right.
And because of that, all the funds that they bring in go to the hospital.
Okay.
So I'll use an example. A mile marker has a sponsorship. I think it's $25,000 for a company to sponsor a mile.
Okay.
That money goes to the hospital.
And you guys don't even touch it. Like, it's just a check to Nationwide Children's.
It's an asset. Miles are an asset. Water stops are an asset. Bands that are playing those locations. So the hospital goes out and sells those spots.
Yeah.
Become a water stop sponsor, whatever that dollar amount is. Become a mile marker sponsor, and that's how about half of $1 million a year is raised.
Okay.
Through the hospital. Again,
and is it? Should I think of that as just sort of like because you guys could collect that. You are a nonprofit. You could collect that sponsorship money, but it's much more it feels good that people are running in the Nationwide Children's Hospital Columbus Marathon. Are they cancer survivors, or are they
it's patients of all sorts at the hospital, from the hospital
that are highlighted at each mile marker. Yeah. There is also an acknowledgement of those that pass away. Yeah. Is that the benefit of that partnership? Is that what you're saying? There's
multiple benefits. I mean, number one, I'll break it down a little bit easier from the standpoint of, we raise $1 million a year.
Okay.
About half of that comes from those sponsors that literally sponsor things on behalf of the hospital, and the money goes to the hospital.
Okay.
Then there's the part of the fundraisers. They're called children's champions.
Okay.
And anybody who runs can become a children's champion.
Okay.
And they basically do pledges, or however they want to raise the money.
Got it.
But different people set different goals or amounts, and there's a whole fundraising mechanism through the hospital. There's a website, and you can, and they help you to communicate to you. It's a lot like Peloton or any other,
but it's not
cause.
Required, right? Like
no.
If I wanted to run, I could just. What is the registration fee?
Depends. I mean, it starts off in January. There's an early bird rate.
Got it.
I think it opens at $110, $110 for the marathon and $95 for the half, I think.
But I could just pay $110. And that would be it.
And that's because when it first started, we were in our 32nd year.
Okay.
And it wasn't, or whatever year it was in 2012, it wasn't going to be fair to go to people and say, well, from now on, you can only do it if you raise money.
Right.
We were too far down the line. Pelotonia, that's how they started.
Exactly.
Wonderful model. But if they had been 10 years in and then tried to get people to do that, the outcry might have been too much.
Well, I don't know what it is now, but I remember when I did Pelotonia, I did the 100, and it was like, oh, you have to raise $1,000.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a small amount of money.
But if you had done it for previous years and you didn't have that set up, you probably would have said, nah, I'm not interested. So we knew that some people have no interest in fundraising, and that's great. They still want to take part in the event.
Yeah.
But they also, there's a benefit just by signing up, because the marathon board is very good, and we've worked hard to be fiscally conservative. We plan for higher expenses and plan for lower revenues, so we always know that we're going to be able to cover the costs.
Yeah.
And monies that are extra, part of that gets donated back.
Okay.
So in the what year is this? 14th year, 2012 to 13th year of the partnership.
Okay.
More than $1 million. I think it's 1.4 million has been donated by the marathon board to the hospital.
Okay.
So of that 14 million, 10% of that has come from the marathon board itself.
Got it.
Which is really, it's nice to know that some of your dollars are going towards that. At the same time, it can't all go to that, because
there's
like I said,
T-shirts,
there's big
medals.
expenses. Yeah. It's and those expenses continue to go up every year. So we work to be fair in our pricing. There's races around the country. New York is great, Chicago is great, but those are $200, $300, $100 plus events.
Okay.
We offer all the amenities, all the fun. We're not Chicago or New York, but you won't find a better start than our race. You won't. We've got great volunteer support and great support on the course with the things, with the fluid stations and the entertainment and that. Because myself, people on the team, the board, have all run the event, run or walked it. So we've run and walked other events, and so we kind of know what do the best events do.
Yeah.
We
what
really
are the best practices?
Exactly, and we really adopt those, and we take ideas. It's funny. I just was telling someone the other day. The race used to start at 8 a.m. This is before I got involved.
Okay.
And there was a flyover by the Air National Guard.
Okay.
Because sunrise is at 7:45 in October. And anytime after that, they can do the flyover.
Okay.
Well, the race got moved to 7:30 before sunrise, so they couldn't do the flyover. And this is my first year. I'm like, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
How can we have fun with this? Well, I had done the Disney World Marathon in the past, and they start with fireworks.
Okay.
So now we start with fireworks. And it just, it's a best practice, something cool I saw. And so we stole the idea. And there's no new ideas out there.
Right.
We just want to adopt them. And we also try to just adopt ideas from best practices of retailers or how is Starbucks communicate when people walk in. We try to think things through from our signage or from our branding or our messaging that just is modern day thinking in an industry or in a sector that was really kind of has roots in sort of independent kind of put on your shoes and run.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have the bell. It doesn't have to have the bells and whistles. And that's part of the allure. But at the same time, we're in a modern society, so you want to kind of mimic what people are experiencing in other parts of their life.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point. And how much has technology sort of changed how a runner experiences the marathon? And do you think that's good?
From the standpoint of operationally,
okay,
the technology has been more tweaks.
Okay,
it's been like the timing, for example. You used to run, and if you were at the back of the pack, and the gun went off,
yeah,
your time started when the gun went off.
Yes.
Well, now it starts when you cross the start line because there's a little timing, a little chip
In your bib, right?
In your bib.
Yeah.
It's basically just a sticker with a timing chip, and that goes on there. So you could be 10 minutes after the start when you cross the start line. Your clock starts.
Okay.
Great tweak, great thing. But still, the concept of it's still a starting line is a starting line.
Right.
Safety helps. For example, we have something called real-time runner tracking.
Okay.
Which allows people to track their family member, but it also allows us to do things like push outs of notifications in case of emergency.
Okay.
Or we could, it also just helps us from a medical standpoint, knowing who people are if an issue were to happen.
Yeah.
And then the technology that the police and fire are using, same thing. They've got the ability to communicate if we have an issue that comes up. So people have really taken to the availability of technology for their own purposes. In particular, GPS systems and smartwatches and all that.
Yeah.
But the big thing that's interesting is, and we found this out from surveys, 80% of the participants carry their phone in the race.
Huh.
Which most of them are listening to their own music.
Right.
Which is kind of a bad thing from our standpoint because we try to provide, between 60 and 80 entertainers on the course.
Right.
But like if they can't hear them,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money to, we give those people a little stipend as
Yeah.
a thanks for playing. You don't want somebody to come out and have to be out there for a few hours and
Right.
they don't need to practice. They enjoy their craft already.
Yes.
But it's interesting that's become more and more popular. It's also somewhat of a danger issue because I've been in races and the police will be trying to get through or an emergency vehicle's trying to get through and people don't hear them because they're wearing
at their
headphones.
back, right?
Yeah, but so the technology it's also affected things like the gear and like these super shoes and all that that have carbon plating and all that. But honestly, it's still fundamentally the act of movement by putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of pure about it and kind of nice about it. It's funny, I never got into cycling and my brother got into it and I know people who have, but I was always thinking to myself, at least trying to legitimize in my own mind the reason I didn't do it is because I would never be able to keep up with the technology. Okay. I.e. the expense of this bike and that bike and I need the latest thing. I really just didn't want to do it, but I always think I blamed it on that.
That's fair. For people who are considering running a marathon for the first time, or even if they haven't done it in a couple of years, when does training should training start for them?
Yeah, I mean the marathon. The science, the experts say 18 to 20 weeks.
Okay.
So June, late June, a lot of the training programs are kicking off
around
June 21st, first day of summer is a Saturday. I know
Okay.
there's some programs that are starting then. Sometimes people like to get a little bit of an earlier start than that just to prepare themselves. The half marathon, which is really the larger of our events.
Okay.
It's 2/3, 1/3. We'll have about 10,000 sign up for the half and about 5 for the marathon.
Huh.
It's also a lot less training.
Yep.
It's also, you can go and I just saw someone had posted, basically it's all of the excitement without the damage.
Okay.
You can still go and enjoy your afternoon, if you do a half. I mean, it's a matter of what is your goal, what's your accomplishment, desire. But I don't like it when people when they use the word only. I'm only doing the half.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're not only doing the half. Only button slow are the worst words. Only the half or that I'm slow but I only did the half marathon. No, it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And it's funny that it used to be this hardcore mentality of the marathoner and they were just, the training techniques were different and now it's become, the running for the half and the full have become social. We've seen a real change in the whole base of runners that are people that are really just looking for the fun side of it. That's why we have 20 local running and walking groups around Columbus.
Okay.
German Village and Short North and Marysville and on. All these different groups that are out there have sprung up because people are looking for a community.
Yeah.
Within their hobby.
Yes.
Because it's
It's a communal, or it can be a communal experience.
Especially once you experience it as a communal activity. Because if you do it by yourself, that's fine. People enjoy going out and for a run. But once you run with other people, it can be more fun. There's a level of accountability. And I've been in many running groups and things like that. And I know if the people that I run with are out on a Saturday morning, I'm like, I don't want to go. But you end up going.
But there's an accountability factor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that just gives you more to push yourself for those days. Maybe you don't want to go. You can learn about the sport, especially if you don't know anything about it. You should never say, I don't know. I can't do this because I don't know anything about it.
Right.
Just go to one of these local groups, and a lot of them are free.
Yeah.
And just meet people and have fun with it. And nobody started out as an Olympian.
Right. Absolutely.
And most of us won't.
That's fair. I end every interview with the same two questions. What do you think Columbus is doing well? And what do you think Columbus is not doing so well?
Oh, wow.
I normally ask that you sort of keep it even outside of
I can keep
the
it
subject matter.
Yeah.
But what do you think Columbus is doing well?
Wow, that's a really good question. I love this city. I've been here since 1991. I was a newspaper reporter at the Dispatch. I covered economic development. I got to see a lot of the changes and things in the city. I really feel that we're doing a great job with our efforts with our parks and our park systems. Our attention, we're not leaving green space behind. And we could have.
Yep.
We did, you go back to places like 161 and Morse Road and all those, when development happened. I don't even know if there is a park on Morse Road anywhere.
Right.
You think about it until you get out to certain places. Not counting Easton and the green spaces.
Yes.
But just places like that. The fact that we have places like Parker Roses, Whetstone Park, and High Banks, and the Metro Park system, and the trail system. They're building more and more of these trails for running and walking and hiking. It's phenomenal. And I don't think people that are here appreciate what we have compared to other places around the country with regards to that network. The simplest thing that I don't like is the garbage in this city.
Okay.
What is going on? I don't care if 71 and 315 are national or state highways. They look terrible.
Okay.
And there's no this used to be a much cleaner city.
Okay.
As simple as that.
Okay.
And it drives me crazy because I'm out running and walking all the time, and I see this. It's like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution is. I saw something on the news the other day where there's a private company that actually employs people looking for a second chance to go pick up trash and things like that. Great step. But we've got to do more. It's just
okay.
Yeah, those are my thoughts.
I will credit you with those are two unique answers for that question.
Yeah, I used to, my biggest complaint, I actually wrote them about this, was the elevators at the parking garage at Port Columbus were disgusting.
Yep.
That carpeting, I'm like, what is going on here? Just put in tile and then mop it down once a day.
Yeah.
And it was so, and I think they actually improved it for a while. I haven't been there in a while to see.
They're not great.
Yeah.
That's like
between all the salt that people in the winter time, and so that was my earlier fix for the city. But
that's fair.
Yeah.
Darris, thanks for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Confluence Cast presented by Columbus Underground. Again, you get more information on what we discussed today in the show notes for this episode at theconfluencecast.com. Please rate, subscribe, share this episode of the Confluence Cast with your friends, family, contacts, enemies, your favorite marathon runner. If you're interested in sponsoring the Confluence Cast, get in touch with us. We can be reached by email at info@theconfluencecast.com. Our theme music was composed by Benji Robinson. Our producer is Philip Cogley. I'm your host, Tim Fulton. Have a great week.